I've always been fascinated by strange stories where people get lost in the woods or encounter strange creatures in it, especially because something oddly similar happens in England. There are scattered reports going back decades, mostly local folklore, about people entering small patches of woodland and getting turned around, sometimes for hours. What's strange is that they all swear they never left the woods, but when they come out, they're somewhere else entirely. Sometimes in another county, sometimes over 100 miles away. There's one story that stuck with me. A kid vanished from a wood near Somerset in the 1980s. Search teams combed the place for days, then he just turned up outside a village in Yorkshire. He said he was never lost. He said someone helped him, a man in strange clothes with an animal that kept changing form. First a dog, then a bird, then something else entirely. Most of the stories are like that. Someone disappears, then reappears miles away, confused but unharmed. But the weirdest detail? They always say the woods never ended, that it was like one long forest they couldn't find a way out of. People say there's an old magic deep in the land, something that still stirs when the veil gets thin. I have seen hundreds of these things at night in the woods around rural Memphis, starting around 2020. They are tall, humanoid creatures with blacked-out eyes, and they move slowly and in strange, jerky movements. The first time I saw them was Thanksgiving night in 2020. I was visiting a veteran friend who had been living in a rundown camper near the edge of the woods on his brother's property. Between his camper and the tree line were the remains of an old trailer destroyed by a tornado. A street light on a nearby pole cast dim light on a field with an old dirt road and tall grass, brush, and trees beyond. At first, I thought they were people hiding in the darker areas, avoiding the light. I asked my friend and he just shrugged and said they were always there and didn't bother him. He also told me that no matter what you did, you couldn't get close to one. Being a combat veteran with 2 deployments, I grabbed my personal firearm and tried to approach them. As I got closer, I saw they were solid white creatures with pitch-black eye sockets, moving slowly and jerkily. There were at least 50 of them across the field, down the dirt road, and along the tree line. Determined, I kept walking toward them. Suddenly, they all looked at me with their empty eyes, and I felt a fear deeper than anything I'd ever known. I didn't go any closer. I turned around, grabbed my buddy, and took him to stay at my place for a few days. Since then, I've seen them a dozen times, always at night, always near wooded areas in different locations. I've tried to run and catch them but failed. They vanish when you get within 5 to 10 yards and break eye contact for even a second. It's like they phase in and out. Their jerky movements seem to be a result of their limbs disappearing and reappearing in new positions. I once fired 45 rounds of 5.56mm incendiary ammo at one and found no trace afterward. They make audible noises that can be recorded, but they never appear on video. Animals react to them, but only about half of the people I've shown them to have actually seen them. I sometimes wonder if I'm losing my mind. I've scoured the internet for similar creatures but haven't found a match. Some people suggest they're shapeshifters, but they don't bleed or truly change form. They vary in size, often grouping in what I call family clusters of 4 or 5, usually 2 larger figures and a couple of smaller ones. No one knows what they really are, and the ones who might are probably no longer with us. I grew up a military brat. My dad was stationed at Hill Air Force Base in Utah, and we spent a lot of time enjoying the outdoors, especially Farmington Canyon, which was gorgeous in the fall. The dirt road we took was dangerous, hugging rock walls on one side and a steep drop on the other. I remember looking out the window and seeing nothing but tiny trees far below. This trip was special because we were camping in a tent with our 2 dogs. It was the 90s, and we used a metal frame tent from the 70s that we got at a garage sale. Since my dad had back problems, we usually did day trips or stayed in cabins. This time, we were actually roughing it, and I was excited. We arrived in the late afternoon, set up camp near a creek, and settled in. The evening was uneventful, and after putting out the fire, we went to bed. Later that night, I woke to one of our dogs growling. I assumed it was rabbits or other critters, but then I heard distinct footsteps on gravel. My heart stopped. I lay frozen in fear as the footsteps circled the camp and approached the vehicle. Eventually, the sound faded. My dad, who had also been awake, waited until it felt safe, then woke everyone, and we quickly packed up and left. We talked about it during the drive back. It was around 1 a.m., and no one really slept after that. I still remember seeing cars full of what looked like college students heading up that dangerous road in the middle of the night. I don't know who that person was, a lost camper, a passerby, or something else entirely, but the experience is burned into my memory. This happened to me this summer, and I swear it scared me to my core. I decided to go camping alone in an isolated forest to unwind. I found a spot on a wild camping app that looked perfect. Quiet, remote, beautiful, with no neighbors. It seemed like paradise. I arrived in the late afternoon, set up my tent, and prepared a campfire. As the sun set, the forest became eerily silent, not even birdsong. I found it strange, but figured it was just nature. As I sat by the fire, I started hearing creaking sounds. I assumed they were animals, but the noises persisted and seemed to circle the camp. My flashlight's battery was low, but I decided to check it out. I ventured a bit into the woods. The further I went, the stranger it felt. The trees seemed to close in and the ground grew muddy. I sensed something following me, but every time I turned around, there was nothing. Then I saw a blurry human-like silhouette between the trees. I couldn't make out details, but it was enough to send me running back to camp. When I returned, my tent had been tampered with. The ropes were untied and the sleeping bag was scattered. I felt exposed and stayed up the rest of the night, alert to every sound. At dawn, I packed up and left. I don't know what that figure was. Maybe my mind was playing tricks, or maybe I encountered something else. Either way, I'm never camping there again. This happened about 5 years ago when I was 20. It was my mom's birthday, and she wanted to celebrate at a house our family owns near a well-known Mexican volcano. Around 10 p.m., she said she and her friends were heading into the nearby forest to share scary stories. I decided to join. We walked for about 15 minutes and stopped near a little cliff. We were on a higher dirt path overlooking another one below. There was a single lamp post down there providing dim light. As I faced them in the lower path, I saw movement and warned my mom. She and a few others looked back and saw it too. A small, strange creature. It was about 1 meter tall, walked on 2 goat-like legs, and had tiny arms like a T-Rex. Its head was small, goat-shaped with horns, but the face had almost human features. Its torso was short, with legs making up most of its body. It noticed us, began walking away, then stopped to glance over its shoulder. Curious, maybe. Suddenly, a dog appeared and chased it into the darkness. We decided to move to a different area and didn't speak much about it. When we returned to the house, my mom suggested everyone who saw the creature draw it. To our shock, every drawing looked the same. About 10 people, adults and kids, saw it. To this day, we have no idea. what it was.